A grand total of 57 rifles were added in Fortnite since the beginning of Zero Build back in Chapter 3 Season 2. In this video, I will rank all of these in a tier list, and I'm sure you will disagree with me on a few of them. From the E tier assault rifles we all don't want to see come back, to the S tier guns that were a little overpowered, I will cover it all. My channel is fully dedicated to Zero Build content, so if you like that, make sure to click on the subscribe button. Let's go! Keep in mind that we will include sniper rifles too, because as the name suggests, they are rifles too. If you remember correctly, Chapter 3 Season 2 was a war-themed season, so we obviously add a ton of new and returning weapons, namely 15 of these. Let's start with a fan favorite, the MK7 assault rifle. While it was introduced a season prior to the start of Zero Build, it was still in the loot pool at the beginning of Chapter 3 Season 2. What makes this gun stand out is its easy to control recoil pattern. With a fast firing rate, this gun is a laser beam. When aiming, instead of slightly zooming and staying in third person, you use the red dot sight, which greatly enhances accuracy. While its damage output isn't the best, the 35 bullet magazine size compensates for this. Overall, I haven't seen many players truly dislike this AR, so I'm starting strong by placing the MK7 AR in the S tier. The second weapon featuring the red dot sight is the Legacy Striker Burst Rifle. As a reminder, this was the first time we had to deal with 2-round bursts, as opposed to the 3-round bursts we were used to in Chapter 1 and 2. We have to admit, this isn't the easiest assault rifle to control, mainly because you have to wait longer between shots. Also, the recoil is quite significant, making it tough to land shots unless your target isn't moving, but it's certainly not a go-to option for most players. Some feel that burst weapons aren't as strong in a game like Fortnite. All things considered, this gun belongs in the C tier. Now, do you remember the Ranger assault rifle? This gun tends to fly under the radar, but it's still a solid option in your loadout. Even though its fire rate is on the slower side, it deals a significant amount of damage. Another notable feature of this weapon is its tight reticle spread and first shot accuracy. If you need to use it while hip firing, it can be very effective. We often forget about this rifle since it was present throughout Chapter 3, but hasn't returned since. Maybe it will come back through the reload loot pool, who knows? I think the Ranger AR is a good weapon without being too flashy, so I'm placing it in the B tier. The next weapon has one of the heaviest recoils of all the assault rifles. And yes, I'm talking about the Legacy Combat AR. I know some controller players are completely turned off by this gun because it's tough to learn and control. On the other hand, those who have mastered recoil control think this is the best rifle available. This is a very polarizing weapon, and personally, I like it more than most. First shot accuracy and crouching make this weapon shine, and it can really melt your enemies at close and medium range. Many won't agree with me here, but I'm placing the Legacy Combat AR in the A tier. The thermal scoped assault rifle is another one we tend to forget, but it was around during the Resistance season. There are different ways to use this one, and you need to be patient with it. If you struggle with using a sniper, this weapon is the perfect plan B. It used to be fully automatic, but was changed to semi-automatic in Chapter 3 Season 2. What's interesting about this gun is that it has no damage fall off, so whether you hit your target from 10, 20, 50, or even 100 meters away, you'll deal the same amount of damage every time. Even though I enjoy using the thermal scoped AR, I think it's a bit challenging to use in Zero Build, given the 250 total HP every player has. It's very useful when your enemy doesn't see you from a distance, but beyond that, it's not the most reliable weapon. I think it deserves a spot in the C tier. Now, let's change the pace and switch to sniper rifles, starting with the heavy sniper rifle. This is one of the most recognizable weapons in the game, mainly due to its very high damage output, but also because reloading it takes ages. Keep in mind, there's no damage fall off on this gun, making it lethal from any distance. It's always so satisfying to land a headshot followed by that thunderous roar. I think the heavy sniper rifle should definitely be an A tier weapon. We can put it in S though, due to its slow reload time. Did you know the boom sniper rifle is essentially the heavy sniper in exotic form? Also, its projectile is a clinger that explodes shortly after impact. It deals 10 damage on hit, followed by 75 damage with the explosion. The animation and concept are cool, but it's not the strongest sniper. You can use its splash damage to hit multiple players at once if you're lucky. It's also quite effective against vehicles, damaging players inside as well. Overall, it's fun to use, but not strong enough, so I'll place it in C tier. The Hunter Bolt Action Sniper Rifle is next, another weapon with one-shot headshot potential. The rare, epic, and legendary versions could do this. What I really dislike about this gun is the shake animation that happens after firing a bullet. It's minimal but noticeable. The projectile is affected by gravity, so you have to adjust for this when aiming at long range. I think it belongs in A tier. What do you think? Next up is the Storm Scout Sniper Rifle. It's similar to the last sniper with a 6-round magazine and a 2.5x headshot multiplier, allowing it to kill enemies in one shot. What makes this gun unique is the map logo that appears in the bottom left when aiming, showing the current and next storm circles. This helps you rotate early and avoid dying to the storm. I think this sniper is underrated, as we haven't had much time to use it in Fortnite. A tier seems fair for the Storm Scout Sniper Rifle. The railgun was introduced back in Chapter 2 Season 7 weapon before Zero Build existed. At the time, players felt it was overpowered, especially since you could shoot through builds. However, when it returned in Chapter 3 Season 2, during Zero Build, it didn't feel as strong. The railgun can fire after a full charge or a partial charge for less damage. While charging, it emits a red beam visible to both the user and other players, making it hard to surprise enemies since they can see the targeting beam and take cover. I can't place the railgun anywhere but in D tier. It's just not designed for Zero Build at all. We can't ignore the hunting rifle when talking about sniper rifles, and this weapon was present for a few days during Chapter 3 Season 2. The rifle doesn't have a scope but offers more zoom than a regular weapon, with just one bullet in its magazine. It can be effectively fired from the hip thanks to its relatively small hip fire spread. However, it's much more accurate when aiming down sights. Although it's projectile based, it has no damage fall off over distance. Many players enjoy using the hunting rifle, but it doesn't deal the highest damage. It's also not the easiest weapon for downing enemies in Zero Build. In my opinion, the hunting rifle should be placed in the B tier. Yes, the light machine gun is categorized as an assault rifle. It's one of a kind in Fortnite as it's the only LMG in the game. This gun boasts a high fire rate and a very large magazine, making it great for sustained fire against targets and builds. In Zero Build though, it's less effective in most combat scenarios. It can still shine at close to medium range, but at long range, the gun kicks significantly due to recoil. While it's a cool weapon, it's not the best fit for Zero Build, which is why I'm placing it in C tier. You probably didn't think of this next weapon when considering assault rifles, but the E11 blaster rifle from Star Wars is one. Let's be honest, this gun is not good. These blasters are the only weapons in the game whose accuracy isn't affected by aiming down sight. When aiming, the bullet spread actually becomes wider since the screen zooms in, the crosshair enlarges, and the field of view narrows. The low accuracy of the E11 blaster rifle is a nod to how Stormtroopers frequently miss their shots. Did you know that? It has decent damage output, but have you ever seen many players carry this weapon in a Zero Build endgame? I haven't. The E11 blaster rifle is definitely a D tier weapon. The sideways minigun made a brief appearance during Chapter 3 Season 2, and it's another very unique weapon. It's a fully automatic, fast-firing, medium-range gun, but it's not very accurate and has a spin-up timer, meaning it can't fire instantly. Instead of a magazine, it uses a cooldown system. Firing it for too long causes it to overheat, and you'll have to wait a short time before using it again. Interestingly, as the gun nears overheating, the fire rate increases and the bullet spread decreases. Overall, I like this weapon, and I think placing it in B is fair. We can't forget the sideways rifle, another weapon that appeared during Chapter 3 Season 2. It functions similarly to the sideways minigun, with an overheating system. When it's about to overheat, the damage multiplies by 1.5. You can fire 10 bullets continuously before it overheats. The damage output is impressive for an assault rifle, with the common version starting at 40 damage, and the mythic version dealing a whopping 57 damage, downing enemies quickly. I was tempted to place it in S tier, but after some thought, I realized most players would still prefer a more traditional weapon, so I'm placing the sideways rifle in A tier. Let's transition to Chapter 3 Season 3, where a new rifle was introduced, the Hammer Assault Rifle. While it wasn't talked about much during Chapter 3, it made a huge splash when it returned in the reload loot pool. Fortnite players quickly realized how strong this AR was. It deals medium damage, has a very fast fire rate, and controlling its recoil makes this weapon really shine. On top of that, along longer sight lines, firing in bursts or tap firing single shots can improve overall effectiveness. Crouching with this gun resets its first shot accuracy faster, allowing for more precise shots. It also reduces the hip fire spread significantly. This gun is great at all ranges, and there's no doubt in my mind that it belongs in the S tier. Did you know it was during Chapter 3 Season 3 that we got the first DMR weapon? This category is essentially an in-between of a sniper and an assault rifle. The DMR is a semi-automatic, fast-firing rifle with a scope that shoots quick-moving projectiles. It's somewhat accurate when fired from the hip, but the scope enables more precise fire at longer distances. However, let's be honest, the Fortnite community doesn't like any DMR too much. This first version felt average overall, so I'm placing it in C tier. Next up is the suppressed assault rifle. First off, a suppressor isn't really that helpful in Fortnite, which gives this weapon a big disadvantage. Additionally, it's not very reliable at long range, nor is it the best for continuous fire. Because of this, it's usually advised to fire in short bursts of 4 to 5 shots to maintain accuracy. One area where this weapon does shine though is at medium range. Still, I don't think this gun should be placed anywhere above C tier. The Evochrome burst rifle is a very unique weapon, and here's how it works. When players deal damage to opponents or wildlife, Evochrome burst rifle can evolve when a threshold is reached. Pressing reload will both reload the weapon and evolve it to the next rarity. Each evolution boosts the weapon stats and increases the number of shots per burst when it extends. While the damage output remains relatively constant, the fire rate gets a significant buff. From what I remember, this gun was a lot of fun to use and pretty solid overall. A tier is the perfect spot for it. The Cobra DMR is a semi-automatic, fast-firing rifle with a low power scope that fires quick move-by projectile. It has a large magazine and can deal consistent damage over range. Right off the bat, it's clear that this DMR feels much better than the first version we got. Since it wasn't a hit scan weapon, it took a bit of practice to master. The damage output is slightly lower compared to the first DMR, but it's clearly easier to use. I think it's fair to place this one in B tier. The pulse rifle's in-game description says fully automatic when hip-fired, slower powerful shots when aimed down sight. It's also important to note that it fires faster and deals less damage when hip-fired compared to when aiming down sight. When aiming, the pulse rifle's first shot accuracy resets quicker than its fire rate, giving all shots first shot accuracy. This mechanic is very unconventional and it takes some time to adjust. It feels odd at first but can be deadly. If you got your hands on Sloan's pulse rifle, the mythic version of the gun, I'm sure you had a blast with it. It may not be an S tier weapon, but it's close. Definitely A tier. We're moving into Chapter 4 Season 1, and one of the most easily recognizable weapons was the Excalibur rifle. This is an unscoped marksman rifle that shoots plates which explode after a short time. The Excalibur rifle deals damage on impact and again a few seconds later, effectively doubling its damage output. Interestingly, it uses shotgun shells instead of AR ammo. With a 2.5 headshot multiplier, it can one-shot an opponent. However, the low magazine size of 3 keeps the Excalibur outside of the S tier. I think it fits best in the A tier. The Legacy Tactical Assault Rifle, which reappeared during Chapter 4 Season 1, was first introduced in Chapter 1 Season 9 during the week's Bounty LTM. In Chapter 4, it was obtainable through the Tactical Armory Augment. This AR uses light bullets, with its damage starting at 19 for the common version. It has first shot accuracy and feels similar to a long-range SMG. Although decent, it never outshone any ARs in its loot pool. Therefore, this weapon fits in the C tier. The Assault Rifle, more commonly known as the SCAR, received a remodel in Chapter 4 Season 1. The general consensus was that this version didn't feel as good as the SCAR from Chapter 1, primarily due to the noticeable bloom effect, which introduced randomness in where the bullets travel. This can be frustrating when no hit markers appear, even when your aim seems perfect. It still packs a punch at medium range, but it's not exceptional, so it belongs in C tier. Next is the Burst Assault Rifle, but not the versions from Chapter 3 or 5. This is the OG model from Fortnite Season 1. It's solid at close and medium range, but less reliable at long range due to noticeable bloom. The Burst Rifle is also terrible for hip firing and should never be used in that situation. While not spectacular, it's still better than the SCAR and Tactical AR, so it goes in B tier. The Red Eye Assault Rifle is a slow-firing, hard-hitting weapon similar to the Heavy and Ranger Assault Rifles. It's most effective at medium range, but thanks to its red dot sight, it also excels at long range. The community received this weapon positively upon release, and it has remained a fan favorite. Its damage output starts at 32, which is considered high for ARs. There are countless clips of players absolutely melting enemies with it, so it definitely deserves an S tier ranking. The exotic version of the Red Eye, the Heisted Explosive Assault Rifle, feels different for two main reasons. First, it shoots explosive rounds that deal splash damage to nearby enemies. Second, it's a projectile-based weapon, meaning the bullet doesn't hit instantly. It's a fun weapon to use, and it's especially frustrating for those trying to defend against it. However, it's not always ideal for certain combat scenarios like hip firing. Because of this, I'm placing it in A tier. Towards the end of Chapter 4 Season 1, we saw the return of the Infantry Rifle, and it was a breath of fresh air. Many players missed this rifle, and it felt great to have it back. The Infantry Rifle is best at long range, with a damage output starting at 36. It has first shot accuracy, which resets quickly between shots, making it lethal for players with great aim. It can't replace a sniper, but it outmatches most ARs. Personally, I'm a huge fan of this gun, and when it was available in the reload loot pool, it felt incredibly rewarding. This weapon definitely belongs in S tier. I'm really curious, which rating did you disagree with the most? Let me know by leaving a comment down below. Today, we reviewed 28 rifles, but there's also a part 2 where we'll cover 29 more. You can watch it right here by clicking the link you see on screen. If it's not there, check the pinned comment. See you in the next one.